do a quick overview of my daughter's car. Well, it's actually my car, but she uses it for college. This is a 2014 Chevy Cruze, and just want to give you my thoughts and feelings about this car. Just to give you a little background, this was my mom's car. It's a 2014. It's got 67,000 miles on it. That's pretty good for a car that's over 10 years old. But there's some little nuances that just wanted to talk about it briefly here. It's a little chilly out, so just bear with me. And I haven't made a lot of videos of beginning over the flu, actually. Would not recommend. 0 stars. It was pretty freaking awful, but maybe it's because I'm getting older. But I'll go over the bad, I'll go over the good, and I'll go over the ugly. First off, the bad. It's not really a sexy vehicle. It's pretty generic. It's if you are using a vehicle like this just to go to school as an appliance, if you will, then you know what? It's not so bad. You know, it's just, I'm not even going to go over the interior. It's pretty basic. Nothing really fancy. This one doesn't even have a reverse camera. It's a little bit too early for that. But it's a decent car. It's not fast. It's not super maneuverable. If you're getting something like this that you want it to be maneuverable, no, definitely not the car. So that's pretty much the bad part. I mean, it's not particularly quick. It's not really particularly maneuverable. If you turn on the air conditioner, you could feel it on acceleration. Let me go over the good parts. The good parts is very good on gas. Parts are cheap. I mean, look at the engine. It's a 1.4 liter Ecotec GM engine. It's pretty easy to work on. Not very difficult at all. Tires are pretty easy, to work on here. These tires are pretty cheap to put on. The filters are cheap. Oil is a standard 5-way 30. Dexos oil, I use Amazon Basics. It works fine. Batteries you can get a battery here for it from Costco, so that's pretty easy. So that's the good parts. It's pretty easy. You can see everything is easy to work on. Here's the manifold catalytic converter / catalytic converter. It's kind of like one unit with the turbo integrated behind this shield. Basically, this would be, let me take this top off, I'll show you this. It's got one coil pack basically for your 4 cylinders. Here are your cylinders right here. So once you pull this off, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's your bank right there to work on. So it's very easy to change your spark plugs. So pretty easy. Air filter, air box is right here. Here's your brake cylinder, and this is your radiator reservoir, battery, and this is your fuse box basically. Now here's the issues with this, and of course here's your radiator, an electric radiator fan right here. Pretty easy to get to everything. What doesn't it have? It doesn't have, I don't know if you can see it down there, it doesn't have power steering pump. That's an electric assist pump, which actually makes it easier because you don't have to worry about power steering fluid or power steering pump. All right, so those are the good things. It's an appliance, not very sexy, not very fast, not very maneuverable, but it works good. Good for a college student. Good for something to commute to work, right? Here's the ugly parts. Everything on this car that is made out of plastic, and there's quite a bit, is going to freaking die. It's going to break, it's going to leak, especially under pressure, and it's going to need to be replaced. If you know that ahead of time, and you're fairly savvy, I like to think I'm a little savvy with maintenance and being able to maintain the car. You know what? Then you're going to be in good shape. And I'll give you an example. Replacing the battery, that's pretty easy. It's a consumable. Doing the brakes is fairly easy to do. I mean, the brakes are, the front rotors are tiny, and it's rear drums. which almost never go. They never go bad, basically. The oil's right here. Here's the dipstick for the oil, and the only bad part is the oil cartridge is right there. It's a little pain in the ass to get to, but it's not bad. It's not terrible. So that's easy. And I have a suction pump that I don't even lift the car up. I don't even go underneath. I just kind of like vacuum the oil right out of the dipstick hole, and it gets 95% of the oil out, and it works great. Just refill it. But here's the problem. This reservoir, which is pressurized, it's actually pressurized as part of the coolant system, whereas the old, I don't know if you remember the old cars, these were not pressurized. Now these go under 20 pounds of pressure. These things will crack. It will crack. Every single person that I know has this, and it's cracked and it's leaked down here on the bottom, winds up spraying down here onto the side of the engine. So this is fairly easy to replace. Not a big deal. Makes a mess because you can see it's supposed to be full with coolant. If you're like me and you're pretty diligent, there's coolant in there, then you're gonna have to deal with it and make a mess on your driveway. In here, you can see that there is a plastic. It's almost like a manifold, but it's plastic, right? It's a plastic coolant manifold, so coolant basically comes out of the engine, right? I believe there's the pump, and you can see the tube here. I'm sorry, that might be it right there. The water pump goes in the engine, flushes through, cools the engine, comes out here, and it gets distributed over to here to the reservoir, right here for this lower hose, etc. So anyway, the point is it's a big coolant manifold, and that cracks and leaks, and that's kind of a little bit of pain in the butt to replace. Not so hard. You just got to remove this right here, and you got to remove some of all these spaghetti of coolant pipes. But once you do that, it's pretty easy to rectify. But the point is, plan on it. It's going to crack. Some of these plastic parts are going to crack. Here is the evap. This is a evap return breather. That's going to crack. It's very easy to do, but I replaced it as just something that needs to be preventative. So this is the air filter in the main air box, and this is the main air intake. You got to watch this because this will crack, and when this cracks past the airflow sensor and the air pressure sensor, this will cause a problem and throw off the computer. So basically anything that's plastic under here is going to break, and it's going to give you a problem. The rubber stuff, not so much. It's the plastic stuff right here. This is coming from the intercooler, for example. You got to check this to make sure that this isn't cracked, for example. If you look here, here's that's the fan belt. Looks like it's pretty easy to replace. The tensioners are right in the middle. However, you got to take this off, which is the main engine mount, in order to replace it. Not a big deal. You just put a block underneath with a jack, lift it up a little, and this whole thing comes off with 5 bolts. And then you can get to the tensioner and you can get to the belt. But again, and you have to probably take this off just to get a little bit of access. Is it really difficult? Nah, not really. It's a little pain because you got to get through it and take it all off, and probably replace the tensioner while you're around there. But the point is, though, I would say, if you're moderately handy, this is a pretty easy engine to work on. If you do stuff like this and you maintain it, this thing will probably last 10, 20, 25 years easy. A lot of the issues that I've seen and read about this engine is people don't maintain these engines, and I think it's just the type of people who buy these cars. They buy it as an appliance, they run it until check engine light comes on. It's a small turbocharged engine. If you're not diligent on keeping up with not only the fluids in general, but especially the oil, you're going to create problems. You're going to starve this tube right here, which is the oil cooler line to the turbo, that gets gummed up and starts getting sludge in it, and you start starving the turbo, for example. Which is this is a $30 part, by the way. You just take this off and you could replace it. And in fact, I might wind up doing that too. But all these little things that go, and if you're not maintaining it, like I said, if this reservoir leaks, and you wind up getting all of your fluid leaking out eventually. For example, it's going to throw a check engine light. The check engine light is going to say coolant pressure low, and it's going to start overheating your car. And if you ignore it and you keep driving it, you're going to have a problem. And it's going to overheat. These engines do not like to be overheated at all. The whole head will warp, and then you'll have a head gasket issue. A head gasket will leak, and then you'll start burning coolant in the cylinders. And then you took a $30 problem, maybe $200 with labor, and you turned it into a $1,500 or $1,700 problem. And that happens all the time. Those most of the complaints that I've seen. So don't ignore stuff. Check the fluids. Change the oil before. At or before when the computer tells you to change it. Do not ignore it. Turbocharged engines want clean oil. They don't want to sludge up. And once you do that, be diligent about checking and replacing any of these plastic parts on here. For example, 67,000 miles on this car, but it's over 10 years old. It's not the miles that creates a problem. It's the time. And plastic gets brittle. It over time it heats up, cools down, heats up, cools down, heats up, cools down, and eventually crack. And then now you have a leak in your air system, and you're getting a lean. You're going to clean out the engine. You're going to leak out your coolant here. For example, it's just so much. I hate plastic in cars, but I understand why they did it here. It's cheap. It's cheaper to make a complex part like a coolant manifold, which is right down here, to make it out of plastic than make it out of metal or aluminum. And they really build these cars to a price point. If you're diligent with the maintenance and you get on the change the oil, change any plastic parts ahead of time, put new tires on it, keep up with the brakes. Car's a good car. It lasts pretty good. Good mileage. Don't ignore any check engine lights. Get right on it, and the car will last you forever. Anyway, hope you find that useful. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll do a deeper dive later on.